Good afternoon. Welcome to the FTD University webinar titled Using Stories to Maximize Your Facebook and Instagram Success. Today, you will learn how to optimize content for Facebook and Instagram stories, as well as use that content across multiple platforms for maximum impact. Krista Neher, CEO of Bootcamp Digital, will be leading this informative webinar. She is an international speaker and the author of several books, including the best-selling Social Media Field Guide and Visual Social Marketing for Dummies. Krista has over 10 years of branding and marketing experience, working with companies like Procter & Gamble, GE, Macy's, and Google, and she has been a featured expert in the New York Times, CNN, NBC, CBS, and the Associated Press. Once Krista is finished with her presentation, we will open up the webinar for questions. If you have a question, simply type it in that question box on the upper right side of your screen. Feel free to submit your questions during the presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Krista to begin the webinar. Krista?
Excellent. Hi, thank you for that kind introduction. I sound so fancy. And no, but thank you for having me here today. So I am really excited to talk to you guys about stories because stories is something that has come up somewhat recently, and I think there's a real opportunity, especially in a visual industry like the floral industry, to really use stories creatively to get more exposure and really to get more bang for your buck with your overall social media strategy. So my hope in this webinar is that we can take you from wherever you are with your understanding of stories right now to understanding them and how they work, how you can use them for your business. And I have some really good pro tips for you about things that you can do tactically to make your story stand out even more. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to jump in and ask them. But we'll give you all sorts of stuff so you have everything you need to get started with stories. So I'm not really going to introduce myself. You already heard all the stuff about me. My latest book is called Digital Marketing That Actually Works, and that's, I think, literally like a few weeks old, maybe a month old. But the other important thing that isn't in my bio is I'm Canadian, so hello to the other Canadians out there. And also, just to pre-warn you, that means I'm really nice. So hopefully I can live up to that expectation. Okay, so are stories important? Should I be thinking about them? I see this section on Facebook and Instagram, and I don't fully get it. The first thing that I want you to walk away knowing is that stories are important and probably worth your while. So Mark Zuckerberg actually said, we expect stories are on track to overtake posts in feeds as the most common way that people share across all social apps. So the short version of this is that Mark Zuckerberg believes that stories are basically the future of the newsfeed. And for this reason, it's extremely important that you take note because they believe that this is really how people will consume content on Facebook and Instagram in the future. The other thing that's really interesting is to just look at the growth of stories. And the picture quality on this is maybe a little sketchy because it's me taking a photo on Instagram from a slide deck that was delivered at Facebook. But Instagram stories grew to over 300 million users in under a year. And Instagram stories is actually the fastest growing Facebook product ever. So that means stories grew faster than Instagram itself, faster than WhatsApp, and faster than Messenger. So stories are huge. Instagram stories has over 500 million users right now, and Facebook is less. Facebook's at around 300 million last I heard. So Instagram is definitely the bigger place for stories, but they're relevant in both platforms. So the main point in me sharing these statistics with you is so that you understand that stories is a really quickly growing format. And stories, interestingly, is basically something that was stolen from Snapchat. So I'm going to actually show you stories live on Facebook. But if you look at Snapchat's growth has actually plateaued. In the last year, the last quarter, Snapchat was flat for the first time. But as you can see with the growth numbers here, stories are growing quite quickly on Instagram. as well as in WhatsApp and Facebook. And I'm not going to cover WhatsApp here. WhatsApp is also owned by Facebook, so it works basically the same. In the United States, WhatsApp is not heavily used, but for anyone international, it is like the platform that they go to. But at any rate, you can see the huge growth here, and that's why this is so important and worth talking about. So instead of giving you a slide on stories, I'm going to show you with Facebook. So I can't demo Instagram stories because Instagram only works from a phone, but I can demo Facebook for you. Now, as I open this, I always give a warning, like this is my real personal actual Facebook page. So I don't know what my friends will post. Hopefully nothing too, this is just about internet marketing. Hopefully nothing too offensive, but I'm giving myself a disclaimer. So this is my real Facebook page. Anyways, okay, so on your phone, you'll notice stories are typically showing up at the top of your sort of scroller. On Facebook, real Facebook on a computer, it shows up on the side over here. And so you can add to your story by clicking this button, and you can view stories here. So I'm just going to click to start viewing a story, and so we can kind of see what it looks like. Now, there might be some volume if it's a video. So the first thing you'll notice about stories is that even when you view them on a computer, they're made like they're for a phone. So you can see this example here. Even on my computer, it shows it in the vertical shape of a phone. Pause this. So it's in the shape of a phone because they're typically shared on mobile devices. So especially since stories really initiated with Snapchat and then followed onto Instagram and then Facebook, they have to be vertical in format. So if you want to make sure your content will work, it has to be vertical. So that's the first thing to take note of. But really what makes stories different, and I'll show you a few so you can see it. Again, I literally have no idea what will show up, but in looking at the next few stories, we'll see none of these people are typically offensive. But basically, as you look at stories, what it is a person can share a story, and a story can be a photo or a video, or in this case, you can see it's a compilation of images and videos. So you can see at the top, each of these little dashes represents one video or photo that makes up the full story. So I could share a story of just one video, or I can add to my story over time, and then it's a compilation of photos or videos. And what makes stories unique is that they disappear in 24 hours. So this may sound familiar to you. What does it sound like? Snapchat is the correct answer. So on Snapchat, and what really made Snapchat powerful and popular was that the content self-destructed after 24 hours. Well, actually there it was immediately. But with Instagram and Facebook stories, the content will self-destruct after 24 hours. Now, if you're posting for a page, you can actually archive your own stuff. So at least you can save and see the stories you've posted and how they've performed. But for an individual, if I share a story, it disappears after 24 hours. And this is part of the appeal as to why humans like to use stories, because what's nice about them is it's a lower risk way to share content. So instead of me worrying, oh, what if I say the wrong thing? You know, people could still screenshot these in all fairness, but the disappearing nature is lower risk. The other big difference that you see with stories is that imagine you're watching this on a phone, which is the main place that stories are consumed. So stories are typically consumed on a phone. And so the main thing you'll notice is that when you're in your news feed, you have to keep scrolling, right? So you're using your thumb to scroll through content, and you really only stop and look at the things that catch your eye. Well, when you load a story, the story takes up the full screen. So it's much more impactful than the news feed, right? Instead of me scrolling through stuff, this has my undivided attention. And that's one of the big differences with stories, is that it captures your undivided attention because it takes up the whole screen. So I'm just going to play this through, and then we'll see a couple other stories so you can kind of see. But you'll see this quote story is made up of a number of different images and videos, which are called stories as well. And then when it transitions into the next person, we'll be able to see what they're
Beautiful islands of FTD. We'll find ourselves a little beachfront. And this bad boy is what we just got off of.
No, I want to go on vacation.
Human.
So I can react to the story also as it's happening. And so here's an example. We saw some videos, and now you can see here there's some photos. So it's a combination of photos and videos, and you'll see it auto flips to the next one, or I can click to skip ahead. So you can see here, I can skip through, and you'll notice that once I continue, it just goes to the next person's story. So it's almost like the news feed. So this is different than the last one. But you can see I can keep clicking to see what goes next. Now, we're going to talk in a little bit about what makes for good or bad stories, and I'll give you some tips as well. But as you can start to see here, some of these stories are people just posting stuff that they would maybe normally share on Facebook. If I look at this one, for example, this is a lot of text for a story compared to some of the more visual ones that we saw at the beginning. But essentially what a story is it's just a quick way to share typically photos or videos, but you can of course share text and links as well. But it's a quick way to share content where people are going to quickly scroll through it with this sort of full phone takeover in their newsfeed. So that's kind of the quick overview of what stories are. And again, they work basically the same on Instagram, as well as Facebook. And I just need to adjust my light to actually see the screen to get out of here. There we go. And so they work basically the same on both Instagram and Facebook. So that I just wanted to show you live so you can kind of see how they are and what they look like, because I think it's a little tricky to explain to people without you being able to see it. So the intention of stories is that it's in the moment content. So it's stuff that you're capturing as you go, as you look at what's going on. So it doesn't have to be these super planned posts that you typically would see on Facebook or even Instagram. The intention is it's a little more on the go. So this could be something that you think about maybe throughout the day. You're taking a lot of photos of things, and your best ones are what's making it onto Instagram and Facebook. This is, think of it, it's called stories for a reason. You can think of this as maybe a little more casual storytelling approach. And again, since the content disappears, it's a little bit less risky than maybe some other platforms. So as I mentioned earlier, stories appear both on Facebook and Instagram. Stories are more viewed on Instagram for sure than they are on Facebook. If you want to add a story, and I'll actually show you this as well, on Instagram, you would click on the stories icon. I'm just going to go to my Facebook page and show you where you can do it on Facebook. Again, this is all intended to be mobile, so it does work more seamlessly, I would say, from a mobile device. But if you come over here to the sidebar, there we go. Where do we have it? Oh, and I need to go into my business manager, I think, to see this. Let's see if this will work. There you go. So you can just click on the little plus button here, and this allows you to write a story. Now, the one challenge that I have when I try to write a story in Facebook is that, again, the story will show up vertical for somebody on their phone. When you craft it here, like I'm just going to add a photo really quickly. Hopefully I can find one that's not too offensive. I know, I just downloaded some profile pictures. Here we go. I'll just use a new profile picture I got from LinkedIn. So the thing is that, oops, let me just escape. When I try to set it up, so I'm not going to post this, But when I set it up, you see here, it's showing me this sort of square photo and the text is above it. If you look at how a story actually looks, right? I'm just going to open a new tab here and show you the stories again, just to refresh your memory. But if you look, okay, good. I do a quick check to make sure it's no one who's likely to post something offensive. But if you look at how the stories actually look when you view them, what you'll see is it's vertical. And where's the text on this, right? If we skip to the next one, this one's just an image, but that was a square image. This is a square image, doesn't work so well. This one's really tricky to read as a story. And you can see here, her text over it is white and it's over a white image. So the challenge is if you're creating your stories content on a phone, you'll see this right away because in your phone, it previews vertical the way you'll see it when you post it. When you create a story within Facebook, it looks like any other status update, but when you actually go to post it, it's going to post in the vertical format. So I'll go ahead and post this. I'm just going to change the context since this is coming from my page. So I'm just going to post this only as a story. And so you can see here, it's now being posted, and this circle here means it's still posting. Excuse me. But the tricky part, if you're crafting your stories within Facebook, is you're going to have a hard time visualizing what they look like. And we'll see if I can see it here in my stories. There we go. So now we can see what it turned out like. And you can see here, oops, you can see here, the text is really hard to read because it's white text, it's kind of small, and it's at the bottom over the image. And the image is also vertical, whereas the preview it gave me was square. So stories, while you can craft and run them directly from a Facebook page, it's going to be difficult for you to visualize them if you create them here. I don't have a screenshot, but you can, of course, do them from your phone, and that's going to make it a lot easier to post, whether you're using Instagram or Facebook, because you'll see it in front of you, so you can really make use of it. So I've explained what stories are. I've kind of peppered in a few tips or things to think about already, but I wanted to briefly talk a little bit about the benefits of using stories. So to me, one of the things that I would say overall about marketing is that sometimes I feel like it's about planting a lot of seeds. And we don't know for sure which seeds are going to grow when, but over time, we know that most of them are pretty likely to turn into plants. And I feel like this is an especially good analogy for this audience, right? Because you make plants. But actually, if you think about it, when it comes to stories, what I like about them is you're probably on Instagram anyways. You're probably on Facebook anyways. And as you post, what you'll notice when you create a post is you typically have the option to post it to the newsfeed and or post it as a story. So not all content works as stories, right? You saw when I was showing you stories that stuff with a lot of text and links doesn't look great in the stories format. So not everything works, but especially you guys in the floral industry who are posting a lot of beautiful visuals, stories can be a really fast and quick way that you can increase your exposure and your brand awareness. So by posting a story quickly, you can really increase your reach. Now, some people will say, well, if it's already in the newsfeed, why does it also need to be in a story? The reality is different people consume content differently. So some people, when they open Instagram, they go to stories and they go through stories first. Other people, when they go to Facebook, they go to the newsfeed and they don't understand stories. They hate getting the notifications and they never look at them. So different people view content in different formats. And while most people are still consuming more content in the newsfeed on Facebook, on Instagram, 50% of the audience uses stories. And what you'll find is probably different people engage with you in stories versus the newsfeed. So for that reason, using stories can increase your brand awareness amongst the people who are active in stories. The other thing that is a benefit, especially for businesses, is that in the news feed, almost all organic posts get very little visibility, meaning if I post something from my Facebook page, if I don't sponsor it with an ad, probably not a lot of people will see it. Stories posts, even from pages, get pretty good visibility. You saw my example where I created that story in Bootcamp Digital, and right away it showed up in my personal stories newsfeed. So they can be a really good way to increase overall brand awareness. The second thing is that if you want to drive engagement where people are interacting and participating with your brand, stories tends to be a more interactive format. And I'm going to show you a few more things about stories so you can really see this. But essentially, you saw when I had that story up on Facebook, that engagement bar at the bottom with the like and the heart, people actually just engage with stories more. And because it's that full screen takeover, so they're seeing your brand message, there's no other distractions. If they like it, they're much more likely to press that engagement button, which is a way just for you to get feedback and interact with people. Stories are cost effective because you can get free reach with them still. You also can run stories ads. So if you feel like this format is something that can work for you, you can run ads for it the same way you run Facebook or Instagram ads. Stories also can be a source of traffic. So for large accounts, you can incorporate links into your stories, or if you're doing an ad, you can incorporate stories. But the other thing that I would say, and this kind of links to driving leads, is that you never know where people are paying attention on what impact you have. So the screenshot that I have on this literally is from a story. So we don't have a huge following on Instagram. We have, I think, under 700 people still. And we haven't gotten into stories until recently, but Allison had started testing the stories format and she made an effort to post regularly. And sure enough, she showed a picture at a boot camp and somebody responded, "When is your next training? Can we sign up?" How cool is that? I never would have expected that a story would lead to somebody actually buying from us, but a lot of people respond, a lot of people are paying attention more than you think. And so for these reasons, I think it can be a good benefit for your business. If you want to just sort of step back and think of the bottom line, to me, if you're already creating and participating on these platforms, it's not that much extra effort to choose the content that works as a story and also post it as a story, or to choose the content that doesn't make the cut and use that for your stories. It's really not that difficult or time consuming to do, and it reaches new people and it could have an impact for you. So my suggestion is play with it, give it a try, and then step back and look at your analytics. The good news is, and I'll show you this in a little bit, but on both Instagram and Facebook, you can get analytics for your stories. And so that means you can see how many people you're reaching and you can decide whether or not it's worth your time and effort. On a personal note, I typically use stories for the stuff that doesn't make the cut to be an actual post. So if I travel, I don't want to post like every meal I eat and every funny thing I see. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll post those as stories as I go. And then my newsfeed posts are more the highlight reels, right? The things that I want to share deliberately. I think that strategy can also work as a business, especially when you're in such a highly visual business like flowers, which are beautiful, right? So you can hopefully find things throughout the day to post to your story, and at least, give it a shot and see if it works. So the key advantages of a story versus a post, and I think I touched on almost all of these already, but the first is stories are viewed in full screen, and that means that people spend more time on your stories content. The second thing is that people are more engaged because they have no distractions and they're not in this scroll. Like, so on the news feed, I'm scrolling and you have to get me to stop. With stories, I'm stopped and you have to get me to not skip you, right? So there's a big difference there. So with stories, people are paying attention already. You just have to keep them engaged and not blow it. The other thing, and I'll show you this more in some examples, but you can add all sorts of fun features to your stories, especially on Instagram. But you can actually add text, you can draw on them, you can add stickers. So a sticker can be a poll where people can vote. A sticker could be a location. A sticker could be the time of day. A sticker can be, they're actually testing donate stickers where nonprofits can have you donate right from a story. So a sticker can be a visual element or an interactive element that drives engagement. And so what this does is it gives you a lot of fun ways to make your content just a little more engaging for people. And as we look at some more examples, we'll hopefully see some of that fun. But if you especially look at stories in Instagram, they have all sorts of just fun, playful things that you can do. For example, in Instagram video stories, you can do slow motion. You can do boomerangs. You can do all these sort of fun, interesting things. And what you'll find more and more on Instagram, as well as on Facebook really, is a lot of the fun interactive features like these stickers and drawing and adding GIFs to stuff. All of that is available in stories, but not necessarily in regular posts. So stories are also a little more fun and playful. So you can see this example here. This is from Starbucks. This is still fairly produced, but you can see here they have some text over top of it as a way to make it seem a little bit more engaging. You can see an example here where I can take this video of a cat and make the cat shoot laser beams at a mouse. So the mouse would be a little sticker that I would add on, and the cat eyes I draw as like laser beams, for example. Let's pop on back over to Facebook and let me just see if I can find, the thing with stories is they disappear every, stories disappear every 24 hours, so I can't really find and bookmark good stories to show you. But you can see this example here. My friend is at Adobe Summit, and so he put the text hashtag Adobe Summit on top of it. And again, I could interact with it directly in the story. There we go.
See my device reflected here.
Let's see if we can find some other examples. So here you can see this text is added to make it a little bit more engaging. Let's see if I can find any good stickers. Here you can see another example. There you go, hashtag, and some more text down there. And so as you can start to see, I'm trying to find some good examples. But you can see, glad I just cleaned the house, and then that, mom life. So whether it's an image or a video, you can actually add text, stickers, buttons, and these sort of fun and playful things to make your content a little bit more engaging and interactive for people. And again, when I try to create it directly from the Facebook page, it's a little tricky to show you because, again, most of the functionality is intended to be for a mobile phone. So what I would really recommend that you do is make the effort to play with them on your phone a little bit more. So try to make a point to, let's see if we edit, if we can get some of the stories features here. Not really. So I can get stickers. So we can see here, I can add some stickers to this. So let me see here. That actually is kind of funny because I'm making the same face as the emoji, right? But you can see here, this is an example of a sticker that I can add. So I can come here and look at different stickers. In this case, they do tend to be a little bit less interactive than what you'll find on Instagram, for example. I can also add some text. So we saw a lot of the stories have text in this. I can crop the photo. I could tag products if I had this set up through my e-commerce. And then I also can add filters to it to make it a little bit more fun and engaging if I wanted to. And so again, I would really recommend checking this out from your phone, and especially on Instagram, because that's where you'll be able to see more of the features, especially things like tagging and stuff like that, where you'll be able to get a better feel for overall what the stories feature looks like specifically on your phone and all of the different things that you can play with. But essentially, you can do a lot to make them fun and playful. And I was at Facebook not too long ago, and I participated in something that they call Story School. And they had everyone like use stories and create like these reverse motion videos and slow motion videos and fast motion videos. And I gotta tell you, it's really fun and easy, and these things look pretty cool. So you can play around with it. And I think on the go, you probably could create some really cool boomerang videos, reverse videos, fast videos, slow-mo videos, all this stuff to create more interesting content. So what I really would encourage you to do is just try and play with a little bit. And unlike Facebook, where you often have specifically scheduled content, you can kind of test things out and post it as stories. Another pro tip is if you create a good video as a story, you can save it or archive it, and then you can use it as an actual post as well, because the stories camera lets you do all sorts of fun stuff that you can't easily do in other ways. So basically, the key elements that most stories have is you have an image as your background image. You want to aim for a vertical image, or at least something that can crop vertical and still look okay. Obviously, the more visually compelling and visually stunning the images, the more likely it is to get results. So aim for images that have a clear central focus and that are beautiful and interesting. The next thing you can do is add some short copy. So you can add, the copy can be quick, right? So if I'm showing maybe daisies, I can just say, daisies are my favorite. Like if you agree, for example. So you could have a call to action to encourage people to participate. If you look at the second example here in the slide, you can see they drew an arrow pointing down to encourage people to reshare the story. So you can even include a call to action. And then the third element of a story is decoration. So here you can have branding. In Instagram stories, you actually can add GIFs and other things on top of your video or image to make it even more interactive and exciting. So these are kind of the three elements to think about. And again, the more you play with it, the more stuff you'll see. So you can see here this example where they're showing the the arrow, you can tell it's on my mind, the arrow at the bottom. And in this last image, you can see some of the stickers you can add. So you can add a hashtag, a poll, people can vote on something by moving an emoji, and then there's all these different stickers that are really just intended to be fun. And I think for marketers, that sometimes is the hardest part about stories, is they should kind of be casual and fun. And we are maybe a little more used to planned and deliberate. So I think that's part of what makes it challenging. But if you get good at it, it can work really well. So let me give you a couple of pro tips on stories. The optimal length for a story is 1 to 7 stories or images. So a story is comprised of a number of images or videos. The ideal number is 7. In studies on how stories perform, what they find is that an average completion rate is a little bit over 50%. So people will typically watch over half of your content in a story, which is really good. And at 7, there's a huge drop-off of the people who continue to engage with your content. So this is based on statistically, what do people interact with? So that means your best bet is 1 to 7 videos or images a day. Now, you may be saying, Krista, are you kidding me? I don't have 1 to 7 things to post today. Well, don't worry about it. I mean, you don't have to post every day. You certainly don't have to post 7 things a day. The idea is to post on the go and start maybe getting an eye towards some of the interesting things that you want to share, and getting your team to be thinking of this stuff as well. So you're creating and sharing more quick content on the go to increase your reach and get more visibility. The best time to post your stories is when your audience is online. So make sure that you know when your audience is online and post during those times. You know when they're online if you look at analytics in Facebook, but according to this, the best times to post in Eastern time are first thing in the morning, so 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., again from 8 to 10, 12 to 2, and 8 to 10. So what do these key time slots tell us? Well, this is basically the time when people aren't working or busy getting ready to get to or from work or making dinner, right? So that kind of shows you also the consumption of stories is casual and entertainment because people are consuming it at, various points throughout the day. So try and work during these prime hours is when ideally you want to post your stories to get the most bang for your buck. Most people are not posting stories every day. So again, if you're saying, man, I really don't have time to post 7 of these things every single day, you don't have to. Again, they disappear after 24 hours. So if you post stories one day and you don't post for a few more days, it just means fewer people see your stuff, right? It's not like your Facebook page where you need to constantly feed the beast and keep it updated. So on average, people are posting between 9 and 14, or brands, I should say, are posting between 9 and 14 days a month. So that's like once every 2 or 3 days. Again, if you get in the habit of just sharing the stuff you're doing anyways, it doesn't feel like that much work. Or if you take your Facebook status updates and maybe adapt them a little bit to fit, that can be a really easy way to do it. So a few best practices. Keep in mind, again, it's photo or videos. The videos should be under 15 seconds. And you can see when we watched the video clips, they do get cut off after a few seconds typically. You can add stories highlights on Instagram. So if you look on your Instagram page, I think I have a screenshot of this, maybe not. But on Instagram, if you look at your Instagram account, there's a section where you actually can add stories highlights. If you add a story to a highlight, it does not expire and it stays on your page. So I'll try and put this to my webcam so you can see it, but I can't actually see what you're seeing, so this may or may not be working. But essentially on your Instagram profile, if you navigate to your Instagram profile, you can create what's known as highlights, and those will stay on your profile until the end. And then of course, we already talked about vertical format. So what you see deliberate brands are doing is they're sharing what's going on throughout the day, whether it's a brand or an individual, and using it literally as a form of storytelling. Brands that maybe have a bigger budget and are more produced are using stories as a way to tell the story of their brand or of their product or of what they want you to buy. So you can see this example from a clothing brand, right? So cozy, you just might want to shop them all. Interested yet? So you can see in this case, they built sort of a specific storyline, and it does feel a little more advertising-y. So again, you could look at your analytics to see what performs well, but this kind of advertising-y content isn't what people would expect to see on stories. Usually it's much more casual content. But the reason I wanted to include this is because you can see this as a nice example of deliberate storytelling for a brand that said, here's exactly what we want to do and here's how we're going to do it, versus just the more casual approach that I previously talked about. And then the other thing that really makes your post stand out is adding some fun content to it. So you can see this example here. It started with just a photo and then they drew on it, then they added some text, and you also can add stickers to make it even more exciting. Another great, interesting example here, this is a Mophie, which is a phone with it's a phone case with a battery pack built in. But what's really cool as you look at this is that what I think they do really well here is they keep their branding in line through the whole thing. So you can see here, it's the orange color of their brand color, and it really looks good and slick, and like it all comes through the same brand. And so that's kind of an interesting idea in order to get people engaged and also make sure your brand message is coming through loud and clear. I was able to find one example. Again, stories are really tricky because they disappear. So it's really hard to find good examples, but I was able to find one example in the floral industry. And again, you can just see in this case, I can't quite tell what the story they're trying to tell exactly is, but you can see how it's just representing the product in different ways. That's interesting and ideally, again, telling a story. For businesses, this is what I was looking for before here, is the highlight section. So you can see this is a profile on Instagram. And so you can see here how you can add highlights, which are stories that display beyond the 24 hours. So when you post a story, you can choose any of your stories to be a highlight, and then it will stay on your profile. So you get a little more bang for your buck. Something else that you have an option for is to have stories archived. So for a business, one of the frustrations is you create a story, it's gone in 24 hours, including gone from you. So if I make a little story video, unless I save it or archive it, that video completely disappears, including from my phone. So now they have story archives where you actually can archive and share some of your, or archive and download some of your stories so they don't disappear right away. When it comes to really getting started in stories, I said already, part of your key to success is going to be, I think if you've not done it yet, just get started and see what works. If you're already doing it, then I would say start looking for best practices to see what people are responding best to. And what you'll find is that both Instagram and Facebook have pretty good analytics about how your stories are performing. So you can see the engagement rates, you can see the completion rate, so how many people watch the whole things. You can see your reach and impressions, and you can see the number of reactions. And you can see the same thing on Facebook. So as you start posting stories on Facebook, there's a section now in Facebook Insights called Stories Insights, where you can actually see how your stories are performing overall. So if you're getting started on stories, some of you may already have been using them. Some of you may be experimenting. Some of you may be using them well already. If you're using stories or getting serious about them, one of the questions you might have is, how do I get more views? Well, the first and most obvious one is post interesting stuff that people care about. The second thing is that the larger your audience size on the platform, the more people will see your stories. So you saw on Bootcamp Digital, I've liked Bootcamp Digital, so their story shows up in my personal stories section. The more people who like your page or your Instagram account, the larger your audience is. And then the larger audience you have potentially for your stories. So keep in mind, post good stuff, and the larger your audience on the platform, the more exposure your stories can have, because your stories will be shown to the people who follow you. So if I have 5 followers on Instagram, my story is going to push to those 5 people. If I have 5,000 followers on Instagram, my story will push to 5,000 people. So part of it is also the size of your following on the platform. So you want to think of stories in the bigger context of Facebook or Instagram. Generally, you would never just have a story strategy outside of your plan for the platform overall. So other than those 2 things, how do you get more views of your stories? One, excuse me, post more often. So the more often you post, the more people will pay attention to you. The second thing you can do is tag other accounts. So maybe I did a floral arrangement and there was a wedding designer who put the thing together. I could tag the wedding designer, or she could tag me, or I could tag, the wedding cake that's in the background, or I could tag the venue. So look for other accounts that you can tag. You even could tag your customers' accounts if they're in your stories. You can use location tags. This is where you say where the story took place. And that can grow the visibility of your story, as some people want to see stories from a specific location. You can also use hashtags in your stories. Hashtags always grow your reach because we know people search for them. And then the last one, which kind of links back to what I've said a few times, play, play, play. The more fun and engaging your stories content is, the better it'll do. And it's features like these videos, GIFs, boomerangs, all this fun stuff that's beyond just a photo or a video that really will make or break how your story performs. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any live examples of really good interactive stuff today, but the more you start looking, the more you'll see these things. If you run ads on Facebook and Instagram, you also can run stories ads. So similar to how you may run a regular ad with your targeting and everything else, stories is a format of ad placement that you can choose on Facebook. So if you're already advertising on Facebook and if your content is appropriate for a story, then you may choose to also run it as a story ad to increase your visibility. The key to success on stories, though, is to really make sure you're integrating it with your overall strategy. So the more you can repurpose your content from your existing posts, the more you can cross post. So if I'm posting something to an Instagram story, I'm also going to post it to a Facebook story because I likely have different audiences there. So the more I can cross post across platforms, the better my return on investment is going to be. So what you want to be thinking about with stories is, how do I do this quickly as a way to maximize the reach that I'm getting from the platform that I'm already on? So what I would really encourage you, and at this point, I'm going to kind of wrap up and then we'll open up for questions. So if you have any questions, type them in now. But what I would really encourage you to do is, if you're already active on Facebook and Instagram, I really think stories is a high impact way to get in front of different people than you're already reaching. So what I would strongly encourage you to do is play a little. Do some testing, maybe make a commitment for a month. You're going to try to post something every other day as a story, or, set a goal that's reasonable for you, 1 day a week, whatever it is. And then do it for a month, step back, look at your analytics, and try to evaluate how many people am I reaching? How does that link to the time I'm putting in? And does this feel like a good way to spend my time going forward? Because to me, the real advantage here is that with minimal extra effort, you can reach an entirely new audience. And that's where I think it's definitely worth the investment in stories, if you can do it quickly in conjunction with your posts on either Facebook or Instagram. So with that, I'll now open it up for questions and answer any questions that you guys have.
Thanks so much, Krista. That was a lot of great information. Really excited to hear all of that. As Krista mentioned, we're open for questions. So if you've got a question, type it in the question box on the upper right side of your screen. We do have a few questions already ready to go. Becky said, could you direct us how to get to this add to story on an iPad, please? She said they do most of their social media posts off of an iPad, so they were hoping you could help with that.
I can't tell you the last time I used an iPad, to be 100% honest with you. But where you'll see, typically what you'll see for the adding to stories button, it's a little tricky because it still is a new-ish feature. What I would look for is, and the interfaces are different between desktop, mobile app, and I have an Android, iPhone is different, and iPad is different. So they're all different apps. But what you'll typically look for to add to your story is this blue plus sign. And you'll see that on Instagram as well. I'm opening up my Instagram to double check. But I see it on my Instagram right below my profile, this little blue plus sign. So whatever platform you're in, look for this blue plus sign, and that indicates add to your story. Generally speaking, it's right beside your profile icon on your profile page. So on all the apps I use, that's how it is on Instagram. That's how it is on Facebook. That is typically where you'll see it.
Great, thanks so much. Question from Jeffrey. Where are stories on your business Facebook page?
So if the question is, how do you add to your story? It's through this button right here. So this is where you can do it on your Facebook business page. So I'm in my business page right now, and that's where I can add to them. To view them, it's kind of weird how Facebook has done this, right? Because I would expect if I click on this, it's going to show me how to edit this photo, and it does at the bottom. But if you click on the top part of it, it shows you the stories. Here are the 2 stupid stories of myself I added. And if you want to see how they look, you can come over to our page because I've just posted these 2 stories, but you can see it. So if you want to see what you've posted, click on the icon. If you want to add to the story, click on the blue plus sign. And this is similar across the Facebook family.
Great, thanks. We've got a question from Sydney. They don't have a Snapchat account. Is that a mistake, or is Snapchat phasing out?
It depends who you ask. But I can give you statistics and an opinion. Statistically, Snapchat is flat. For perspective, if you look at major social networks, Twitter is declining. It's the only one declining. But Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram are all still growing and like relatively quickly. Snapchat is the only declining platform right now of the major ones. Pinterest is growing like everything else is growing, especially with international audiences. With Snapchat, even with international audiences, it isn't growing. So to me, if I'm not already there, how much do I want to invest in a platform that's not growing? But beyond that, this is maybe a little bit more perspective. If you look at the Snapchat audience, they do still tend to be young and fun. And Snapchat has always struggled with their business platform. The thing that makes Snapchat so tricky is that people have to either come and follow your stuff and, look, unless you're Taco Bell or Burger King or something, doing really quirky, fun stuff, it's really tricky for most like regular businesses to be able to build audience there. Or you can advertise, but they have the least developed advertiser platform. And the tricky thing about the Snapchat audience is they're like fairly adverse to ads on that platform, especially ads that don't feel like they belong. So if it were my time and energy, the thing is, you typically now can reach the same audience that's on Snapchat. You can reach those same people on Instagram. So there's super high overlap between Snapchat and Instagram. So if it was my time and effort or investment, 1,000%, I would just go with Instagram, which is bigger, more established, and just easier for businesses to use than messing around with Snapchat. So there are still some good reasons to use Snapchat if you want to reach younger audiences. I work with some colleges that are there, some teen brands. So there are brands in the Middle East. Snapchat's actually growing quite quickly in the Middle East still. So I do work with brands that use it, but I think for 90% of us, it's not going to be the best place to invest our time and money right now.
All right. We've got another question from Brenda. It's kind of a sidebar question, but social media related. So Facebook has announced some additional privacy updates are going to be added. How do you think that's going to impact businesses, and will Facebook become obsolete for business marketing?
It won't and no. So here's my slightly longer answer. So over the last 3 years, Facebook has had a ton of problems with privacy and bad press. They get more bad press by far than like any other platform. Personally, I think it's a little unjustified, but that's not important. They get so much bad press. And despite this, their user numbers are up every single quarter, and their advertising dollars are up quite significantly every quarter. So I can't remember the numbers in their last quarterly report, but the advertising revenue per user, it was up a lot. So the point is, businesses are still there, not going anywhere, and people are still there, not going anywhere. Maybe a year ago, there was this hashtag delete Facebook thing, and I asked my Facebook rep about it, and he was like, yeah, I mean, our numbers aren't going anywhere. So for all the talk, mostly on Facebook, about deleting Facebook, very few people have done it. Now, time on Facebook is dropping, but I think that's got a little more to do with social media annoyance versus that people have privacy problems with Facebook. So the point of view that people dislike Facebook and it gets bad press, therefore it's dying out or going to die out, there's actually no evidence in numbers that would suggest that that's generally true, other than these headlines you read. So that's kind of the first part of the question. The second thing is about privacy. So Facebook made a big announcement earlier this month that they want to focus more on private communications. if you actually read the whole thing, what Facebook says is it's in addition to their public social networks. So what Facebook has basically said is that in addition to all the public sharing that happens on Facebook and Instagram, they see the need for one-to-one private and secured communications. And this is really how Snapchat operates already. Outside of the US, WhatsApp already operates as a phone number. So, I was in Bali a couple years ago, and instead of phone numbers, everyone just had their WhatsApp, and you would text or call through the WhatsApp application, not through a phone number. And this is quite standard across Asia. You see it in Europe, you see it in South America, really anywhere except the US and Canada. WhatsApp is almost like a phone number. And so I think what Facebook realizes is that the idea of having a phone number and using a telephone and text messaging is going to become obsolete, because why am I dialing arbitrary numbers tied to you if I want to get in touch with you? I always know who you are through your Facebook account. Why can't I just message you through that? And this is something that happens everywhere else. If you look in China, which is more advanced in social, they have super messaging capabilities there. So I think if you look at the privacy stuff, what you'll see is that Facebook is looking to add on to what they're already doing with private communications, not to do it instead of what they are currently doing. And so I think, whether or not they pull it off is a separate question. When they made the announcement, 2 senior executives left because they disagreed with it. But the bottom line is Facebook is going clear ahead in the direction of private communications as well. So does that mean it'll be less relevant for business? No. It means Facebook will have more information about everyone. And it means that more people will be spending more time on the platform, ultimately, whether it's through a private secured channel or not. So I think, Facebook isn't really going anywhere. And there are no indications that private messaging will replace the public and shared messaging that we use social networks for today. So I think there's no reason to expect it going anywhere. And I was just at South by Southwest, like a big tech conference, and a friend of mine, Joe Jaffe, did a presentation on his new book, which is called Built to Suck. Good name. And anyways, he said, people always want to know what's next, but they're not even doing what's now. And they're not doing what's now well. So don't worry about what's next. Worry about what's now and doing it. And, I think it's true for this question a little as well. Fish where the fish are. The fish are in Facebook. There's no signs they're going downstream right now. It's not like Twitter. It's not like Snapchat. So long answer to maybe a simple question, but the privacy problems don't seem to impact Facebook's growth much. The private messaging they want to build, I think, will only increase their power if they can pull it off, but it shouldn't decrease the relevance of their public sharing platforms. And right now, Facebook is still big and growing and coming out with really new innovative solutions for advertising and reaching your audience. So I think it's a great place to spend your time and money.
Awesome. That was a great answer. We appreciate it. A lot of good information in there. Well, it looks like we are out of questions then. You covered a lot of great content, so we appreciate that, Krista, very much. And we appreciate everybody attending today's webinar. If you missed a portion of the webinar, you want to view it again with yourself, your team, a replay will be available on the FTD Mercury Network Florist YouTube channel later this week. And the webinar materials are available already at ftdi.com. As always, we'll be sending you guys a very brief survey to gather your feedback on today's webinar. So we'd ask you to please just take a minute, complete the survey, and help us improve future webinars and other education programs for our members. Our next FTD webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, May 21st. Susan Nagin, the co-founder of WizBang Training, will share proven, effective, and low-cost or no-cost marketing ideas. The registration is already available at ftdi.com. So please be sure to register as soon as possible and reserve your spot. We just want to thank you again, Krista, for sharing a lot of great information on how to optimize our content for Facebook and Instagram stories. So thank you, everyone. This concludes FTD's webinar, Using Stories to Maximize Your Facebook and Instagram Success.